5 Live Formula One.
As dusk approaches in Abu Dhabi at the Yas Marina circuit, the sky has turned a bright orange, slowly turning to a deep purple as nightfall will arrive. We're just a few minutes away from lights out, going out for one last time in 2024. The final race beckons, round 24 of this longest season in Formula One history, and there are still scores to be settled. There are fond farewells, and there are midfield fights to be had. It's all set up rather nicely then for us. Up in the commentary box alongside myself, Harry Benjamin, is the former Renault Formula One driver Jolyon Palmer, and our eyes and ears on the ground, it's Jenny Gow.
Thank you, and it's a gorgeous day here in Abu Dhabi as the sun begins to set. I was just on the grid with Lewis Hamilton, the last drive he's going to have for his Mercedes team, and it was quite fitting that the sun was going down right behind him. Of course, he starts P16 on the grid, not where he wanted to be, but he'll have a good fight on his hands. Charles Leclerc also at the back there, and when I walked all the way to the front, you found those two McLarens shimmering in the sunshine, that papaya standing out proud. They want to win this championship. It's all about that prize and the glory that goes with it. 1998, it's the last time they managed to win it. Can they do it again, or will Ferrari get the better of them? They're 21 points behind McLaren. This is an all-out fight for the top spot.
There absolutely is, as you say, just 21 points between McLaren and Ferrari. McLaren leading the way. A total of 44 points can be scored under the lights in Abu Dhabi. And Jolyon, well, McLaren have the advantage. They have locked out the front row. Will it be plain sailing for them?
It should be. They're 1-2. They've got the fastest car, and they've got drivers in great form. And they've got one of the Ferraris starting right on the back row of the grid. Charles Leclerc 19th after a poor qualifying and a grid penalty for new battery in the power unit of the Ferrari. So it's massively in the hands of McLaren. And so long as they don't come to blows and they get to the flag, you'd have thought it's going to be party time at the end of today.
A little further back, and we don't often say that, he was bumped up a place to 4th for Max Verstappen in the Red Bull. He had a hairy qualifying, nearly found the wall on one of his flying laps. In the end, though, didn't really challenge for that pole position. Where do you see his race heading, his final one of the year, and now a 4-time champ?
Well, he could be a menace for the win still from 4th. So Nico Hülkenberg qualified 4th in the Haas yesterday, had a fantastic effort, and was penalised 3 places for a really nothingy
safety infringement, I believe it
that's
was
the word.
Called.
Overtaking in the pit lane, which is naff in qualifying when it's all about top speed and hurtling your way through the corners. So Hülkenberg should have been 4th. It would have been a nice buffer from the top 3 and your Verstappens and maybe even George Russell, who starts 6th. As it is, that now puts Verstappen 4th, and we know when he smells blood, he's a bit of a shark. He'll still be in the mix for a win.
Absolutely. That midfield battle, though, you mentioned Nico Hülkenberg. It would have been amazing if he could have held on to that 4th place starting position. Haas and Alpine are in a really fierce rivalry right now with a 6th place in the Constructors. Each of them have kind of only got one car in it at the moment, though.
Magnussen's 14th in the other Haas. Jack Doohan is having his debut in the other Alpine. He's 17th. So it is really up to Gasly in 5th and Hülkenberg 7th. And it's still up for grabs. We're talking millions of dollars difference in prize money, 6th and 7th. And between Alpine in 6th and Haas in 7th, there is 5 points. Haas will have to score 6 to jump ahead of Alpine because they've got a better result on countback with the double podium. But the Alpine is a bit fragile at times this year. We've seen a few DNFs for Pierre Gasly. Las Vegas was one a couple of races ago. So Hülkenberg's got to aim for at least 6 points, and let's see what happens.
And we mentioned right at the back, Lewis Hamilton starts 16th, Charles Leclerc 19th with a 10th place grid drop. Can they carve their way through the field?
They can. I'm expecting some overtaking from both of them. Hamilton is the only driver in the field starting on a different tyre. The entire grid is on a medium, apart from Lewis Hamilton, who's gone for a hard tyre, which is a racy strategy from Lewis. He's going to be pushing later on in the Grand Prix. It'll make his early laps a little harder, but I'm expecting him to do some damage in that Mercedes later.
Well, the grandstands are absolutely packed for the final race of the year. The floodlights will shine bright. Will they shine brightest on McLaren? Could they clinch their first Constructors title since 1998? We're moments away. It's time to find out. It's time for the final race of the year. It's time for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. As they peel away on the grid then for the formation lap, it's the two McLarens on the front row. Lando Norris starts on pole ahead of Oscar Piastri. Carlos Sainz keeping the fight alive for Ferrari starts third ahead of Max Verstappen. Pierre Gasly's Alpine rounds out the top five. Then it's George Russell in the Mercedes sixth. Nico Hülkenberg in the Haas is seventh ahead of Fernando Alonso. Valtteri Bottas starts a season best ninth for Sauber, and Sergio Perez rounds out the top 10 ahead of the two RB drivers. Yuki Tsunoda and Liam Lawson goes from 12th, Lance Stroll is 13th, Kevin Magnussen 14th ahead of Zhou Guanyu. Lewis Hamilton embarks on his final race for Mercedes. He'll start from 16th place ahead of debutant Jack Doohan, and then it's Alex Albon 18th. Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari goes from 19th, and last on the grid in his final race for Williams, it's Franco Colapinto. As the formation lap then well and truly underway, we have got a debutant. That's the sound you're hearing right now. It's Jack Doohan just weaving left and right as he approaches the left-hander of turn 5 that brings you onto that over 1 kilometre straight. His job this evening, Jolyn, for Jack Doohan, first race at the last race of the year.
Yeah, get to the checker flag at the very least and hope to maybe snaffle a point in the Alpine. So Doohan starts 17th. It's a tall order. It's unlikely, but if there's any drama ahead, he's got to be in a position to try and take it. And there's a few drivers having their last race.
Thank you, Sauber. Thank you, Ferrari. Let's do it.
That is one of the drivers having his last race, Valtteri Bottas, and what a way to go out so far, getting into the top 10, starting from 9th position in this fluoro green Sauber, one he will race for the last time this year. Where his future lies still unknown, perhaps as a reserve driver back at his old stomping ground at Mercedes next year, or could he fill the second Red Bull seat that is currently occupied by Sergio Perez? Talks still underway at Red Bull headquarters as to what will happen there, but that will have to wait until Monday morning. Right now then, the tension starts to build as Lando Norris has already peeled into his grid spot. They'll have to wait there a little bit, all the while Johnny and his tyres losing temperature.
Yeah, it was quite a quick formation lap for the two McLarens. Sainz now pulling into third place. This race start is going to be critical. Is there going to be drama between the McLarens? Can Sainz get in the mix?
A warm welcome to our listeners on BBC Radio 5 Live. We are just moments away from the final race of the season. McLaren could clinch their first Constructors' title since 1998. They are 21 points ahead of Ferrari, who chase them. There's a battle in the midfield as well between Alpine and Haas, not forgetting the two RB drivers too. And fond farewells for the likes of Carlos Sainz, who bids farewell to Ferrari, and Lewis Hamilton, who is about to start his final race as a Mercedes driver before he departs to the Scuderia for next year. We've got a couple of cars out of position as well. Hamilton is down in 16th. Charles Leclerc with a 10-place grid penalty is down in 19th. But they're all now lining up on the grid. The green flag is flying at the back. It is a McLaren front row shining bright in Papaya. It is all ice to the lights and foot to the floor. One last time in 2024 for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, and it's a good start from Lando Norris down the inside into turn 1. There's contact between Verstappen and Piastri. They spin out. Verstappen keeps going. Piastri is stopped on the exit of turn 1. That is disaster for McLaren in their hopes of an easy ride to the Constructors' title.
Sainz up into second place there. Norris leads with a big gap because it was second and third that collided, and Verstappen is going again, and I don't think Oscar Piastri, yeah he is, but he's right at the back of the field. So disaster for McLaren. Verstappen had a good start, dangled a nose down the inside, and that's where the touch came.
Pierre Gasly's up to third, but the midfield battle is getting spicy as well, with the likes of Kevin Magnussen sliding down the inside of Sergio Perez. 4 cars into 1.
Perez is round, Perez spins, and through goes Charles Leclerc. I think he's already in the top 10, Harry.
That was a chaotic half a lap. We're not even finished lap 1 of 58 here around this Yas Marina circuit in Abu Dhabi. It's Lando Norris who leads, Carlos Sainz, Pierre Gasly is third, Russell Hülkenberg the top 5. inside.
I think Charles Leclerc has gone from 19th to 8th in half a lap in the second Ferrari. He's taken advantage of the chaos, and Ferrari are right back in this fight.
This is absolutely enthralling. The two Saubers are toe-to-toe as well, coming through the mid-pack as we arc round the last two corners. The double right-handers that see off the lap here around this 16-turn Yas Marina circuit. It is Lando Norris who leads the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Join us on 5 Sports Extra for the full race in detail. Now we're just getting another look then at the start of the race. It was a nice easy getaway for Lando Norris, but it's Max Verstappen, Jolien, who slides down that inside.
Yeah, he's really aggressive. He got a beautiful launch off the grid and then fancied a move on Piastri down the inside on the brakes as well. Got down the inside, not completely down the inside of Piastri, who held it around the outside. Front right of Verstappen clipped the left rear of Piastri and sent Oscar Piastri down to 20th place, which is now 19th. Because Sergio Perez is stopped and is going to be out of this race.
Sergio Perez then, his visor up. Meanwhile, the sound of his teammate trying to recover and go down the inside for 10th place on Liam Lawson, but he has to back out of it because the virtual safety car has been deployed. So Lawson holds that place, and they all have to now hit a time delta on their dash, and the gaps should remain roughly the same. It neutralizes the race as the marshals make quick work of removing Sergio Perez's car as he walks away. Is that the last we'll see of Sergio Perez in Formula One?
Yeah, that could be a miserable end to Perez's career at this point. Lots of rumours about his future, and the virtual safety car is out, but it's going to be a very brief one, I think, because he's actually stopped in a pretty handy place, already going behind the barriers. So you've got Norris, Sainz, Gasly. George Russell is now 4th in the Mercedes, and that's been a beautiful start from him, taking out a couple of contenders all around him. But the big move is Charles Leclerc, who gained 11 places on the opening half a lap. He weaved his way through that brilliantly, and both Ferraris are now in the points.
Ferrari started this race with only one car inside the top 10. Now it's McLaren who only have one car inside the top 10. It's Norris, Sainz, Gasly is 3rd, ahead of Russell. Hulkenberg is 5th, Alonso, Magnussen. Leclerc is 8th, ahead of Stroll. Lawson is in 10th. That's the final point scoring position. Verstappen ahead of Hamilton, who's 12th. Then it's the two Saubers, 13th for Bottas ahead of Joe. Albon's 15th, Doohan's up to 16th. Tsunoda, Colapinto, Piastri 19th, and last one retirement, Sergio Perez.
So Verstappen's still 11th, having done a pirouette on the first lap. Piastri came off a lot worse, but is on the tail of Colapinto and is 19th, and he now is on the Charles Leclerc drive to the points. They've almost swapped roles, those two, with that opening lap collision. The virtual safety car is about to end, and we're going to go racing again.
Good rises up the grid for the two Haas cars of Kevin Magnussen and Fernando and Nico Hulkenberg, as well, as we now get this race back underway. Green flag flying. Lando Norris leads them from Carlos Sainz, but it's Pierre Gasly in the Alpine as he exits out of the chicane towards turn 9, who is under pressure from George Russell in the silver arrow of the Mercedes with DRS for both of them. It's going to be side by side through the long left-hander. The Alpine holds it. Russell has to slot in behind as the sun sets and the orange glints off of these cars, racing downhill towards the tight right-hander of turn 12.
Top class defence from Gasly, got the traction out of 7, managed to hold the inside at turn 9, and it's crucial. He's in 3rd in an Alpine. It's another stunning performance from him so far, but he's got Nico Hulkenberg just behind George Russell in 5th, and Kevin Magnussen made a load of places, so both Haas cars are in the points against one Alpine, so that fight is well and truly on as well.
Absolutely, even with the brilliance of both Haas cars being up there, 3rd place right now is enough, and we're seeing Oscar Piastri in a replay trying to find his way around the outside of Franco Colapinto's Williams down the back straight and ends up punting into the back of him.
Yeah, he hit him. Colapinto was having a look at the car ahead of him, and he's radioed now saying he's got a puncture as a result of that. Colapinto backed off. Piastri wasn't expecting that, and they were all squaring up to the back of rookie Jack Doohan.
Lando Norris on lap 4 of 58, and what a cracker of a start to see off this, the final race of an enthralling 2024 season. Lando Norris has a 2.7 second gap to Sainz. Then comes Gasly, who's feeling the pressure from George Russell, who's got Nico Hulkenberg in tow behind, bringing along Alonso. Then Kevin Magnussen Magnussen. Little bit of a gap back to Charles Leclerc, who's hunting down the Dane in front of him, with Stroll and Verstappen rounding out the top 10.
So Verstappen cleared Lawson on the VSC restart as well, so he finally got himself back into the points. Looks like he hasn't got any damage. It was only a light touch wheel to wheel between the Red Bull and the McLaren, but of significant consequence. Piastri's at the tail of the field. That's the sound of Franco Colapinto re-entering the fray after his puncture. He's now 19th and last, with Perez out of the Grand Prix, and all of the pressure is now on the shoulders of Lando Norris. If anything happens to Lando in the next 54 laps, there's a long way to go. This is Ferrari's championship from an unfathomable position.
Well, let's see. 2.5 seconds is the gap that Lando Norris has over Carlos Sainz, but it is only lap 5 of 58. Up in the commentary box alongside myself, Harry Benjamin is the former F1 driver, Jolyon Palmer. Down on the ground is Jenny Gao.
Piastri has just come into the pits. He stops in his pit box. They lift him up. They change the tyres. It's quite a long stop. The rear left was a problem. They've sent him back out on the hard tyres. Before that, Franco Colapinto came in. He had a rear left puncture from that contact with Piastri. It's desperate times, and I look at the pit lane and the pit walls and McLaren. It's tense down there. It doesn't help that they're separated by just the start-finish country. Ferrari are right beside them, and it must be so tense. They're all doing all they can to will their drivers on.
Goes from bad to worse for Oscar Piastri. Was a slow start. Meanwhile, George Russell is eyeing out the Alpine of Pierre Gasly once again through the left-hander of turn 9 with the aid of DRS, but just can't get close enough to find a run alongside.
More good defence from Gasly, who's managing to hang on around the outside of that position, and that's helping Carlos Sainz in second place with a buffer to a Mercedes that's looking quite quick at the moment.
And we're just getting another look again of the start replay, and Max Verstappen with a perfect pirouette, and he, Jolyon, has been given a penalty of 10 seconds for his role in that clash with Oscar Piastri.
This is the sound on board. The champion from fourth on the grid gets to third, then has a look at second, but it's a bit of a half-hearted attempt.
I mean, I was just super unlucky. I was all the way up the inside for the crash.
I think the problem for Max is he wasn't there. He was a long way back, got himself halfway up the inside, got to the apex, but it was from fair way back, and just tagged the left rear of Piastri.
And Carlos Sainz was able to just touch on the brakes, and suddenly the road opened up. One McLaren spinning off to his right, the Red Bull spinning off to his left, and second place was there for the taking for Carlos Sainz.
Yep, new champion.
Ooh, punchy words from Oscar Piastri. That was the sound of the pyre being clapped round.
Oh, that is the sound of despair from the McLaren Technology Centre in Woking. So all of the factory crew in there watching what was going on, and it's despair as Piastri is shuffled right to the back of the order.
And meanwhile, on the track, Max Verstappen has just made a move on the Aston Martin of Lance Stroll to try and get himself up into 9th position. So the Dutchman recovering.
We are P8.
So that was the radio from Brian Bozzi, Charles Leclerc's race engineer, to him after he goes around the outside of 5 cars at turn 6. It's the most outrageous move that is cemented by Valtteri Bottas nudging the left rear of Sergio Perez. But Leclerc was round anyway. They were all bunching up on the inside. Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari thought, okay, I'll have a bit of this, and scrambles around the outside to 8th position. Extraordinary stuff from him.
Valtteri Bottas then didn't get the best of starts. He's actually come into the pits now with that penalty as Charles Leclerc continues to make moves up the grid, down the inside. Didn't have to fight that one too hard on Kevin Magnussen, but he's coming back at him, out down the back straight. DRS open for Charles Leclerc, who is speeding by the Haas, who tries to put up a fight, but he can't compete, and into the braking zone. The Scarlet Red Ferrari is ahead and up into 7th place.
Another nice move from Charles Leclerc. Verstappen's up into 9th. He's on a charge, but he has 10 places, 10 seconds of penalty coming. This is the sound on board George Russell, still trying to find his way past the pink Alpine of Pierre Gasly. Every time he's getting close coming to turn 9, but there's not a huge braking point that anymore. You're braking and turning and attacking the corner all at the same time, and Russell's not quite close enough to make the move, still bunched up in 4th.
Lap 7 of 58, it's Lando Norris in the McLaren who leads by 2.7 seconds to Carlos Sainz for Ferrari. Gasly is holding on to 3rd, but this is the sound of George Russell, who is chasing him in the Mercedes, less than a second between them. Hulkenberg is 5th ahead of Alonso, then it's Leclerc, Magnussen 8th, Verstappen and Stroll the top 10.
Verstappen has been given a 10-second time penalty.
Good is the response from Oscar Piastri when told about the penalty coming Max Verstappen's way. That will drop him down the field. Hamilton has made gains, not as well as Charles Leclerc, though, who was up into the points. Hamilton from 16th up into 12th, and just behind Liam Lawson's RB.
You know, a subplot in all of this is that Max Verstappen is accruing quite some penalty points on his race licence. After what happened in Mexico, 2 penalties there. After getting another penalty for the virtual safety car infringement in Brazil, another penalty that he was fuming about in Qatar. He's going to have to tread carefully for 2/3 of next season.
He's on 6 at the moment. The next one he knocks off when the points expire won't be till June next year. So he has got to be careful entering next season.
Well, yeah, he may well get 2 for that as well. So that'll put him up to 8. He's been involved in many a fracas this year.
Well, it's lap 8 of 58, and Max Verstappen, well, with that 10-second penalty, he's still trying to charge his way up through the field. He's closing in on the Haas of Kevin Magnussen, who's just been passed by Charles Leclerc. Magnussen running his own race right now, hoping to score points in his final outing for Haas. He'll be departing to pastures new. Next year, we will have no Magnussen on the grid. His teammate Nico Hulkenberg is up in a fantastic 5th spot right now. He will also bid farewell to Haas, but he'll remain on the grid. He'll be joining Sauber next year before they become Audi. Right now, the biggest title on the line, it's the final race of the year, is that Constructors' title fight. Lando Norris currently leading the charge now for McLaren. Coming into this race, the points gap was 21. Therefore, a maximum of 44 points needed. Lando Norris needs to finish ahead of the Ferrari at least, and right now they are on course to do that. McLaren, it's going their way, even with one car out of the points, down in 17th place.
And now Piastri has been given a 10-second penalty for hitting the back of Franco Colapinto and causing the Williams driver a puncture. I think that one might be a bit harsh, actually. It looked like he was caught by surprise rather than any malice from Piastri, who's also at the back of the field. But there's probably going to be of little consequence for the moment. It's all about Lando Norris now for McLaren. He has to stay in the race, basically. He's got the pace. He's 3 seconds ahead of Sainz, but he's got to just hold on.
The stewards' room busy in the first few laps of this race, busy on track, trying to recover into the left-hander, the sweeping corner of turn 9, reimagined over a couple of years ago now, and has really sped up that corner. And for Verstappen, he now finds himself in front of the Haas of Magnussen and up into 8th spot. His next target will be Charles Leclerc, who now finds himself a little bit stuck behind the Aston Martin of Fernando Alonso.
So Norris leading by 3.3 seconds, and then there's Pierre Gasly, still a brilliant 3rd for Alpine, but he's 4 seconds back from Sainz. He's acting as the perfect rear gunner for a Ferrari and holding George Russell a second away from Gasly now behind him. And Russell's just having a bit of a struggle to make any more inroads. Fernando Alonso is behind Nico Hulkenberg 5th and 6th, and this is the sound of Fernando Alonso with Charles Leclerc right on his tail because he's just ran wide on the exit of turn 1.
Absolutely, and they come into the left-hander of turn 6 or turn 5. Then Charles Leclerc just having a little glimpse down the inside of the green Aston Martin ahead of him, and with the aid of DRS, that drag reduction system, the rear wing opens up and he gets a few extra kilometers per hour to power himself past the Spaniard and into the braking zone of the left-hander of turn 6, and Charles Leclerc now finds himself in P6.
If Norris wins the race, McLaren will be Constructors' champions, and they are in position to do that at the moment. If anything happens to Lando Norris, Ferrari are there to capitalise, and Charles Leclerc is siding his way through the field. He started 19th. He didn't even have a good qualifying yesterday. He was going to have a penalty regardless, but he had a lap deleted for track limits, had to start from the back, made his way up to 8th on the first lap. Extraordinary start, but now he's up to 6th position, having dispatched Magnussen and Fernando Alonso pretty easily. Next target for him is Nico Hulkenberg, and then he's on the tail of the battle for the podium.
And that podium currently does consist of Norris, 3.5 seconds the gap to Sainz. Then it is Pierre Gasly holding on to that Alpine in third. Russell, Hülkenberg, Leclerc is the top 6. Then comes Fernando Alonso, who's just been passed by Leclerc. Verstappen is 8th, Magnussen 9th. Lance Stroll rounds out the point scorers in 10th ahead of Liam Lawson. Lewis Hamilton hasn't been able to find a way past Lawson yet, but Hamilton is on the hard tyre, so the slightly slower tyre should be able to go longer into this race as a result of those ahead of him. Everybody else on the medium tyre. Zhou Guanyu is in 13th, Alex Albon 14th, Yuki Tsunoda rounds out the top 15. Jack Doohan has kept his nose clean on debut and currently is down in 16th ahead of a recovering Oscar Piastri, spun out by Max Verstappen into turn 1, punted into the back of Franco Colapinto. Piastri has a 10-second penalty as well. He's also pitted and moved on to the hard tyre. Bottas 18th, he's pitted after an incident with Perez. Colapinto also pitted onto the hard tyre. We have lost Sergio Perez from this race in the Red Bull. Lap 11 of 58 as we continue to gauge how this race will run. The top runner's still yet to pit. We're expecting the first pit stops, if all runs to plan, now, and about maybe the earliest ones in 10 laps or so. Yeah, we're expecting it to be a one-stop race. Everyone started on the medium, apart from Lewis Hamilton, who started on the hard tyre. And he will do the opposite. He'll go hard onto a medium. Right now, he's on the tail of Liam Lawson, fighting for 11th place. And so we're not expecting a huge variation in strategy in this Grand Prix.
Well, that's interesting you say that, because there is some conjecture up and down the paddock that actually this could be a two-stop race. They weren't 100% on it because they didn't do the running that they would have liked to. But a lot of teams have saved another set of hard tyres just in case they need to change them. And that's Lance Stroll, I think, or was it Fernando Alonso? One of the Aston Martins has come in for a pit stop. That's quite an early pit stop. They've changed onto the hard tyre.
It was Lance Stroll, Jenny, who is now out there indeed on the hard tyre. Also on that hard tyre, started on the hard, Lewis Hamilton fighting ferociously with the RB of Liam Lawson, trying to find his way through and still not able to pass him.
It's 22 seconds for a pit stop. So if you want to make a second stop, you need to be much quicker. There needs to be a significant amount of degradation, which at the moment for the front runners isn't there. Charles Leclerc's on the prowl behind Nico Hülkenberg, and he has a little nose to the inside at turn 9. He might even get halfway along the inside at turn 9. They're side by side.
On the exit, Hülkenberg forced over to the curbs. The sparks fly from the underside of the Ferrari, which sweeps through into the double right-handers of 11 and 12 as he carves his way underneath the hotel. It is Charles Leclerc through on hold.
Got no pace, mate. Got no pace.
Hamilton saying he's got no pace. He's currently now ahead of Lawson and up inside the top 10.
Yeah, he's just cleared Liam Lawson. He's got 3 seconds to Kevin Magnussen ahead. He is on the offset tyre, Lewis Hamilton, so he will go onto the medium later on and try and be quicker at that part. Tasty stuff from Charles Leclerc around the inside of Hülkenberg. Didn't do it solidly on the brakes, but managed to just hold the apex. Hülkenberg ran slightly wide and he slithered through into 5th position.
Yeah, nice move. It's still Norris who leads, though, yet to stop, along with Sainz, Gasly, the top 3. We are seeing, though, a bit of pit action, and it's a long stop for Kevin Magnussen from a few moments ago. The right rear slow off and on, and that will ruin the Dane's race. He'll try to recover as Zhou and Albon also come into the pits and are released as they head downhill and underneath the circuit with arcs left, and underneath feeds you out midway through the right-hander of turn 3.
7 seconds in the pits for Kevin Magnussen. That was 9th place Kevin Magnussen pitting in the Haas. That's a two-stopper then for these in the midfield. Stroll's already pitted. Magnussen was trying to cover him off, and it is a disaster for Haas, who need all the points they can get with both cars, and Magnussen's going to drop out of the top 10 with that one. In fact, he's behind Oscar Piastri.
Yeah, that is a real shame for Kevin Magnussen. Talk of midfield fights, though. The Williams and the Sauber fighting their way through. Alex Albon getting ahead of the Sauber of Zhou Guanyu as they came out of the pits. It was the Sauber ahead, but now down the back straight, Albon up and into 16th as they try and sort themselves out.
Verstappen cleared Fernando Alonso on the last lap. Now he clears Nico Hülkenberg as the first of the Haas drivers pits from 6th position. So certainly some of the midfielders staring at a two-stop race here.
If you're going for a one-stop, you really want to try and make it to at least lap 20. I mean, that's what was predicted at least by Pirelli. So let's see how this fares out. Those coming in earlier, perhaps going for the two-stop.
It's a much better stop for Hulkenberg than his teammate. 7 seconds for Magnussen, 2.5 for Hulkenberg. Very decent stop for Haas this time around. They've had their warm-up. And Fernando Alonso rejoins the fray as well in the Aston Martin, slithering through the tunnel at the pit exit on a new set of hard tyres. Alonso also pitting then from what was 7th position.
The sky illuminated in pink as the sun slowly starts to set on the horizon. The floodlights that surround this track become more prominent. It's lap 14 of 58 of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, the final race of the year. Lando Norris leads this race. Carlos Sainz is in second right now. Norris, if he wins this race, McLaren will take their first Constructors' title since 1998. But there are still battles all throughout the field. We have an Alpine of Pierre Gasly currently occupying the podium positions after a fantastic start where we saw Oscar Piastri and Max Verstappen fall by the wayside into turn 1. And this, the sound you're hearing, is George Russell, who's been all over the back of the Alpine, hasn't been able to find a way through. He will now, though, because Gasly has come into the pits.
Gasly was 10 seconds away from Carlos Sainz, so finally that unleashes Russell and Charles Leclerc up into 3rd and 4th. Gasly and Alpine covering off Nico Hulkenberg. That's the battle that they're focused on. 6th in the Constructors' Championship. It may well give up their chance of a podium as Russell and Leclerc go longer. Verstappen's through as well, although he has a penalty looming. 2.6 second stop for Gasly, and he's back out.
Yep, nice and quick for the pink Alpine, who will head out and join the track just behind his new teammate for this race, Jack Doohan, who replaces Esteban Ocon 1 race earlier than planned. That's to allow Ocon to be able to do the test next week with his new team Haas. We will see Ocon again next year. We will see Doohan again next year. He has a contract in his pocket to be a full-time race driver.
Front tyres are getting way too hot. I can't brake.
Verstappen's been struggling with the front end of the Red Bull all weekend. He's not been very happy with it and now struggling for the feel of the brakes as he's dropping away from Charles Leclerc ahead. Leclerc half a second quicker on the last lap than Verstappen. 4 seconds between Leclerc and Verstappen. Less than 1 second between Russell and Leclerc. Charles Leclerc is now fighting for 3rd position on lap 16. Incredible.
He started this race down in 19th, won but last after getting his lap time deleted in qualifying yesterday. Didn't have time to set another one and came into this weekend with a 10-place grid penalty to boot. That's for using a new battery pack. So he was on the back foot, but what a start for the Monegasque racer.
Out front, Lando Norris still 3.8 seconds clear of Carlos Sainz. McLaren 1, Ferrari 2. Mercedes 3 and then Ferrari 4. So the pressure now well and truly on McLaren, squarely on Lando Norris out front, and he's not disappearing. Sainz is still there distantly in his mirrors. It is still race on for the Grand Prix win.
Another penalty coming in from the stewards room. 5 seconds for Zhou Guanyu for a false start down in the Sauber. He's currently down in 17th place. Didn't get the best of starts either to Zhou Guanyu. Started this race down in 15th, has fallen down the field. He has been into the pits though in what will be his last race as a Formula One driver, with Sauber at least for the meantime.
Yeah, not sure what that was. I think we've got a replay of Zhou's false start. It can be starting outside of the box, it can be moving before the lights. Either way, it's a shame for him in his final race. Alex Albon was also investigated, but no further action for him for a false start. They're both further down the order, 16th and 17th.
Lap 16 of 58. Norris still leads this race by almost 4 seconds. Here he is.
And Lando, how are the tyres? Yeah, okay, like struggling a tiny bit more than what it was, but they seem to be maintaining right now.
So this is definitely one-stop territory for those out front. For the midfielders that pitted earlier, it's going to be tougher for them to get to the end of the Grand Prix without making another stop. But they've all been covering off each other in that battle. This is the sound of Pierre Gasly, who's in 9th. Jack Doohan, his teammate for the day and for next year, is just behind him. Doohan waved Gasly through on his outlap. Alpine playing the team game. They've just got to beat Haas, and Gasly did cover off Nico Hülkenberg, who is sitting behind Doohan in 11th place. It's still well up for grabs, that one as well.
All it takes is a safety car intervention to shuffle up the field. We've already had a virtual safety car. There is less than half a chance on the safety car coming, about 40% the probability for that coming into this race because of the long runoff areas and being able to access the track and get the cars cleared quite quickly. We saw that with Sergio Perez's Red Bull, but never rule anything out in this game. Back onto the circuit though, and Pierre Gasly has been eyeing up his former teammate Yuki Tsunoda for a few corners now with the aid of DRS down the inside, coming into the left-hander of turn 6, and the pink Alpine now ahead of the blue and white RB.
Round of applause in the back of the Alpine garage, who are enjoying what they're seeing at the moment. It's all exactly as it needs to be. Tsunoda's going to fight back though with the DRS, and he's straight back through as the double DRS. That's how it works. Gasly around the outside. This would be audacious on better tyres. Oh, lovely stuff from Pierre Gasly. Holds on to it.
Side by side, and Tsunoda is not going to give this one up. Will he try and hold it around the outside of 11 and into 12? No, you have to slot one by one through there. And as they make their way underneath the bridge at the hotel, through the left-hander of turn 14, the pink Alpine of Gasly is now through on Yuki Tsunoda, who gets pushed down to 9th. Tsunoda still trying to make the case as to why Red Bull should promote him to the top team next year.
That's a lovely bit of racing between the former teammates. So Gasly now doing what Alpine need, getting the moves done, holding on to them and keeping a car between himself and Nico Hülkenberg behind us. So long as he's got the Haas cars behind him, things are looking good for them in their battle. This is the sound of Charles Leclerc staring at the back of George Russell, hitting the brakes for turn 6, slowing it down to the left-hander, down to second gear, takes a short shift for third gear as he gets back on the gas out of turn 7 and now extends on the long run down towards turn 9. The action zone from the Grand Prix so far, but it's not going to be on this lap for Leclerc, who is just too far away from Russell. 1.1 seconds, tantalising, but not quite within DRS range.
Charles Leclerc, who has been finishing runner-up here the last couple of races in Abu Dhabi, desperate to try and continue to carve his way through the field, getting a little bit balked though by George Russell. Could Leclerc and Ferrari try something here with an earlier pit stop? If they both want to try and make that one-stop work, they'll eke it out for as long as possible.
Yeah, they're in the range now of a one-stop race, and Leclerc is staring at a podium chance here. Gasly's pitted and is kind of still net third, but actually going slightly slower than those two at the moment. So it's going to be close with Russell, Leclerc and Gasly. And they're all going slower than the top two. Norris now 4 seconds clear of Sainz. They're lapping within a tenth of each other, lap on lap. Russell is nearly a second a lap slower than them. So George Russell, having put the pressure on Pierre Gasly, maybe has got through his tyres a bit quicker, and now he's struggling really in third.
Lap 19 of 58, Norris leads by 4 seconds to Carlos Sainz. Then it's George Russell in third, Leclerc, Verstappen the top 5. We're still waiting for pit stops to shake out. Hamilton is 6th, Lawson, Gasly, who pitted from third, is now in 8th place ahead of Tsunoda. Hülkenberg is the top 10. We have lost one driver from this race, Sergio Perez in the Red Bull. So Jenny, we're now down to just 19 cars, and I wonder, is this the last time we'll see Sergio Perez not only as a Red Bull driver but as a Formula One driver?
I worry that that's exactly what's going to happen. He was obviously and understandably downbeat when he came into the media pen after that early exit, and he admitted the collision kind of summed up his season. And for the first time this year, I think he's wavering in his confidence about being on this grid next year. Big meeting on Monday to decide his future. What's it going to be? We don't know.
Well, yeah, we will see. There will be a big meeting on Monday morning back at Red Bull headquarters where they will decide whether to promote from within or perhaps to keep Perez. Who knows what they will do, but gearing up perhaps for some more pit stops in the intermediary as we're on lap 20.
So the Ferrari crew came out to the pits and Leclerc flashed through. So I don't know if that was a dummy to try and get Russell to cover them off and jump out of the way. Big snap from Charles Leclerc, flat dropped out over the crest at turn 3. He really wants to get into the DRS range at the first chance out of turn 5, and he's not close enough again. 1.3 seconds back from Russell. It's about getting on the podium now for Leclerc and just putting more pressure on Norris, maybe taking advantage if there's a safety car or something. But for now, he's still just tantalisingly looking at the back of the Mercedes gearbox and not quite able to get Russell moving offline.
You can never rule anything out, because last weekend at the Qatar Grand Prix, when it looked like it was going all McLaren's way, suddenly with that 10-second stop and go penalty for Lando Norris, they lose a huge chunk of points, and Ferrari gained all of those points as well just by staying in it till the bitter end. Oh, that sound you're hearing is a really horrible start.
I lost the clutch, man. I don't think I did anything wrong, to be honest.
Yuki Tsunoda saying it's your fault, not mine, for a horrible start that you could hear, just pulling in the clutch, getting anti-stall and anti-stall and anti-stall, and then finally getting away from just outside of the top 10. He tumbled to the back of the field before he even hit the brakes for turn 1. Into the pits then, finally, this time around, comes Charles Leclerc from 4th place. A big pit stop needed from Ferrari.
Yeah, and with eyes on it, let's head to Jenny Gao.
Yeah, and he wheels into his pit stop. I think it's slightly slower than they would have liked. He's just out in front of me. They put a set of hard tyres on and he's back out onto the racetrack. Going that way.
Thanks, Jen. Yeah, about 2.7 seconds in the end for the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc, who now dives down through the tunnel. That is the pit lane exit. So he's come in then. They've bit the bullets. They've decided not to waste time behind George Russell and his Mercedes. So they are going to try and undercut the Mercedes ahead of them.
Gasly stays ahead of Leclerc then. After those last couple of laps of Russell losing pace, Gasly has managed to stay in net 3rd place. And Leclerc covered off Nico Hülkenberg, who he had cleared on track with that lovely move at turn 9. He stays ahead of Hülkenberg, who's now in his wheel tracks, as Leclerc accelerates down the first of the back straights and heads towards the big braking zone at turn 6. Got to bring these hard tyres in pretty quickly. Don't want to have a big lock-up on them, because they got to go to the end of the Grand Prix. Another 37 laps.
Lewis Hamilton, who started on the hard tyre, going the alternate strategy, has worked his way all the way up to 5th at the moment, but he is yet to come into the pits. Neither has Max Verstappen on the medium tyre ahead of him, still out there, even spinning out in turn 1, is now up into 4th. George Russell yet to pit in 3rd, and there's 4.2 seconds separating our leader Lando Norris from the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz, who are nip and tuck with their lap times at the moment, so their tyres holding steady at least for the time being.
And Russell doesn't pit to try and cover off Leclerc. Mercedes then have given themselves a little bit of a problem here. Leclerc in fresh air for the moment, will very soon catch Pierre Gasly, but Gasly's also going quicker than Russell, so Russell here is losing track position, and he is still dropping away on the last lap, 1.2 seconds slower than Norris and Sainz out front.
Sweeping his way through the left-hander of 6, out with a little bump over the crest at turn 7, then it's a slight kink through the left-hander of turn 8, and heading down towards the arcing left-hander of turn 9 is the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz, who is chasing down Lando Norris. But right now, the McLaren driver has this in the bag for the time being. It's only lap 22 of 58, but so far, Norris is doing the job he needs to do for McLaren.
He doesn't need to jump into the pits yet. He's just got to cover off Sainz. Strategy for strategy, pit stop for pit stop. We're only expecting 1 from those at the front, and Sainz is still 4 seconds away, and in fact has just done his personal best lap of the race on the last lap, nudges to within 4 seconds of Lando Norris. So it's still race on, it's still nervy times for McLaren, but for the moment they're doing enough. Stay out.
Why?
Yuki Tsunoda sounding rather exasperated, being told to stay out. His response, why? Tsunoda's down in 10th, has just been passed by Leclerc and Hülkenberg in the last few laps.
Yeah, his pace is awful right now, so I don't know what they're trying to hope for with RB. Tsunoda on the edge of the top 10, but hasn't pitted. When he does, he's going to tumble right to the back of the field.
His teammate Liam Lawson is still out there, up in 6th, yet to pit for the RB driver, who has now got Pierre Gasly and Charles Leclerc behind him on fresher tyres as well. Lawson still needing to make his pit stop.
So as things stand, if Sainz overtakes Norris and wins the race, Ferrari can win the championship, because Leclerc is in a net 4th and he's on the tail of Pierre Gasly for a net 3rd.
I can maintain this pace.
That's Russell saying he can maintain this pace while the cries from Yuki Tsunoda are heard, and he's brought into the pits and fed back out again. He slides down through the field. Meanwhile, the other RB of Liam Lawson is overtaken rather easily by the Alpine of Pierre Gasly, and Charles Leclerc just lurking behind the RB, ready to make his move.
Leclerc's got to clear Lawson immediately. This is the sound of the Ferrari now. Lawson's got DRS to try and come back at Gasly, but he's got old tyres, and he's going to be vulnerable to Leclerc, who goes to the inside, and he's staring at the back of Gasly as well, and it would be a big move for third place on the road, but he's not going to do it yet. Gasly holding on.
This could be crucial for the Ferrari constructors fight. Has a little nose down the inside of turn 11. Can't find a way through there. Audacious if you can. Charles Leclerc behind Gasly for now. Chaotic start with Verstappen and Oscar Piastri colliding into turn 1 of lap 1, but it's lap 24 right now. Lando Norris leads. If he stays ahead of the two Ferraris, they will clinch the Constructors' title, but the Ferraris are chasing, and if they get ahead, well, this could go down to the wire. Lap 24 of 58, more pit stops to come. That's the sound of Liam Lawson, who has a quick stop and then just gets held slightly while there was a bit of a delay. Cost him a couple of seconds. He waited all the way till lap 23 before coming in to put on the hard tyre.
Yeah, 4.2 seconds in the end. Right, here's a chance for Leclerc. Onto the long straight, down towards the biggest braking zone at turn 6. Has a look to the inside, and he's going to come past the Alpine.
Gasly has not fought that one hard. He tries to tuck back under over the crest and turn 7 out, making his way flat out through the left-hand kink of turn 8. Gasly will get the aid of DRS. The pink Alpine closing right up to the back of the scarlet red Ferrari, coming into the left-hander of turn 9. Gasly cannot find the pace. As Liam Lawson, after a slow pit stop, says the wheels are not on. Has he fed back out onto the track after that? We'll have to wait and see. But Charles Leclerc has managed to cement that position ahead of Pierre Gasly. A net third place as it currently stands. Absolutely crucial for Ferrari to keep their title hopes alive.
Yeah, that's really, really big. It keeps the race on tenterhooks at the front, because Sainz is inching his way back to Norris. It's now 3.5 seconds that Norris leads from Sainz. They're getting right into the pit stop window. Pit stops are not easy for teams today. We've had some fairly daggy efforts in the pit lane. 7 seconds, the worst of them for Kevin Magnussen. We had 4 for Liam Lawson. This is the sound of the New Zealander coming back towards the pits, and something clearly has gone wrong with their stop entirely.
Well, at least he's made it round the lap without any wheels falling off.
Wait, the car dropped.
Lawson saying the car dropped. He's made it back to the pits. Jenny, what can you see?
Yeah, he's just in front of me actually, pulling into that pit box. It looks like the front right is not on properly, so he's come back in, but alerting the stewards to that is not ideal. And if I look to my left, the Ferrari guys are back out in their pit box too, and they're welcoming Carlos Sainz from P2.
In comes Sainz. It looked like it was the front left of Liam Lawson that was given a tighten up, and he's sent back on his way. In from second place then comes Carlos Sainz. There was a few second gap between himself and Norris. Norris has stayed out. Sainz and Ferrari have called it first, coming into the pits.
Best stop of the day from Ferrari as well. 2.2 seconds. I'm surprised they blinked first, because things were starting to work in their favour, narrowing the gap and piling the pressure on McLaren, but they've done that anyway in the pits. So now it's up to Norris to hammer in the best in lap, and it's up to the McLaren crew to do a sensible stop, because if they don't, the door is open for Sainz to lead this one.
McLaren will respond, as you're just listening to Liam Lawson's first pit stop. The front left was sent off, given the green light, and then called to stop, but then let go again.
Yeah, he's exactly right in his feedback over the radio. The car dropped, but there was a mechanic still trying to gun the front left on. Lawson then, as the mechanic dropped away from it with the car moving, Lawson then left the pits, but realised the front left was not properly attached, and that was another driver on the edge of the top 10 having issues today.
And that is not what RB needed either. They've drifted away from that fight in 6th in the Constructors, as we've got more movement in the pit lane, and it is McLaren. Lando Norris are responding to Carlos Sainz pits. Jenny.
Yes, that papaya car comes into the pit lane. It looks like a clean stop. They hammer on good, clean pit stop for Norris?
That is a pit stop with title pressures on it, and it's a great effort from the McLaren crew. 2 seconds flat. It's even better than Sainz and the Ferrari crew, which was a great effort at 2.2. So Norris should hold on ahead of Carlos Sainz. Now he's got to get those hard tyres up to temperature, and he is back out in the race lead.
Lando Norris is peeling out of the pits now, arcing his way through the right-hander of turn 3, and he comes out just ahead of Carlos Sainz, who had a mighty outlap, closed the gap to himself and Lando Norris. Crucially, Sainz, though, will have an extra lap where his tyres are fired up to temperature. Norris needs the outlap of his life here to hold on. Here's Leclerc.
So now it's plan C. That is a bit optimistic in my opinion.
Plan C for Leclerc and Ferrari, a one-stop perhaps. He has already pitted. Could he go to the end?
I think that's got to be the plan for Leclerc. He is in a net third. It's an actual fifth right now, with Verstappen third and Hamilton fourth. Yet to stop. Russell's come out behind Gasly, the man that's been frustrating him in the first part of the race. He lifts off, doesn't try and pass the Alpine into turn 6. There's another DRS zone on the exit of 7. That's where he is right now, and he fancies the pass in what he deems the easier place. Let's see if he can do it.
He'll try and get good traction out of turn 7, up through the gears into 8 with the aid of DRS, getting up to 320 kilometers an hour. Slides down to the inside of turn 9 through the left-hander, and the silver arrow is through on the pink Alpine and up into the more point scoring positions, up into 6th for George Russell.
The problem is they've let Leclerc jump them, Mercedes. They didn't respond, they didn't go proactive, so it is a net 4th for Russell, and he was in 4th before. He's cleared Gasly, but he's lost out to Leclerc, and that'll be a tougher one to get back. Charles Leclerc 3 seconds up the road from George Russell, 5th and 6th, but again, Verstappen is 3rd, having not pitted. He's got a 10-second penalty looming as well when he does pit. That'll unleash Lewis Hamilton into a better position as well. Hamilton's had a good run on the hards.
I'm sorry, Franco. This is not how I wanted your last race to be. We're going to be the issue. It's been a pleasure this year.
And after 9 Grand Prix then, for the man from Argentina, Franco Colapinto, bows out of Formula One for now as a Williams driver. He retires from this race.
I hate to say it, but everyone that's on the last race today is having a miserable time. Colapinto's out. Perez, we don't know categorically is his last race, but it may be, and he's out with a retirement on lap 1, having been hit by Bottas, who's in his last race. Zhou's in his last race, got a 5-second penalty for a false start. Magnussen could be in his last race, had a 7-second pit stop.
One man in his last race for his current team, though, Carlos Sainz, is keeping the fight alive for Ferrari. Fastest lap last time around.
Not his last race, though. He's back next year.
Yeah,
he can have fun another time.
He'll be in a Williams. He won't be challenging for podiums and wins just yet. This could be Carlos Sainz's last chance to challenge for a win for quite a few years yet. What a way to go out with Ferrari if he could win this race.
Yeah, it's definitely not one stop.
Copy that. Clear.
Okay, so Hulkenberg then radioing it's going to be a 2-stop for him. He's in 8th, which will be probably 6th when Verstappen and Hamilton pit, but Hulkenberg has to pit again as well. And remember, he was one of those earlier to pit. He's in that midfield melee. They were all covering off Lance Stroll. There was Alonso there. There was Gasly pitting fairly early as well. So they're into the 2-stop, whereas I think those further at the front of the field are in a more classic 1-stop race.
Lap 29 of 58, Lando Norris leads by 2 seconds to Carlos Sainz. Verstappen yet to pit in 3rd, Hamilton yet to pit in 4th. Then comes Leclerc, Russell, Gasly is 7th ahead of Hulkenberg. Then it's Alonso in 9th, Piastri is in 10th. Then it's Stroll, Magnussen, Albon, Zhou, Tsunoda, the top 15. Jack Doohan is 16th ahead of Bottas. Liam Lawson, currently the last car in this race, 18th. No Colapinto, no Perez.
We've got a planner here showing possible P3, so I reckon we could do this, but
possible P3 for Hamilton.
That'd be huge for Lewis Hamilton, who's in 4th on the road at the moment. He's within 3 seconds now of Max Verstappen. He's 8/10 quicker per lap, and Verstappen has a 10-second penalty. So Hamilton is net ahead of Verstappen. He's then going to hope that those that pitted early, like your Nico Hulkenbergs, like your Pierre Gasly's, and potentially Leclerc and Russell, fall into tyre trouble, and he can go long and make this 1-stop really work. In comes Verstappen from 3rd.
And it's a slow stop as well because they can't touch the car. He has a 10-second penalty to serve for his involvement in the collision into turn 1 of lap 1, which spun round the McLaren of Oscar Piastri. They wait the 10 seconds. They then get going and they send him on his way. So Verstappen then is going to filter out probably outside of the top 10 after that 10-second penalty, and it wasn't a good stint for him anyway. Had the touch with Piastri, didn't have a huge amount of pace, was complaining about the brakes, and he's going to emerge just behind Lance Stroll in 11th place, but on a fresh set of tyres. More pit lane action as well for Kevin Magnussen, who had a slow stop first time around, has come back in again. It's an early second stop for Kevin Magnussen, who will hope to run to the end now. Those further back might well be hoping for some kind of safety car.
Can we ask for 20 seconds? Stupid idiots.
And that's what Max Verstappen has to say about the stewards. Not happy in that Red Bull.
No, he doesn't take a penalty on the chin, does he?
No, and he has fed back out in 11th spot behind Stroll and just ahead of Albon. Lap 31 of 58 then. Let's head back to Jenny Gow.
Yes, and just looking at Carlos Sainz currently P2 and Charles Leclerc P4. Both Ferrari guys were absolutely gunning for it today. I spoke to them yesterday. Sainz, with all of his family here, know how important this chance is. It's an opportunity for one last win when he can get it in Ferrari. He moves to Williams next year, of course, and he won't be challenging for anything nearer, even a podium, most likely. So he knows what's at stake, and both of them, both Ferrari men, were really keen that they could get out there and get twitchy.
Yeah, thanks, Jenny. We've got a slow-moving Sauber of Valtteri Bottas, right front puncture, making his way towards turn 9 now. You said it earlier, Julian, the ones who are having final races, it's not going well for them.
Well, there's two of them that have come to blows. Magnussen came into the pits, and I think he's been hit by Bottas, or they've come together. Magnussen was looking to the outside line, out of the pits on hard tyres, and Bottas is fully smoking it on the brakes with a massive front lockup and just drills into the side of the Haas car, spinning him round. I wonder if there's more like a brake failure for Bottas than anything. A man of his experience there, just purely locking the front solid, no turning, no deceleration. Crunch.
Oh, isn't that just great?
Kevin Magnussen not having the final race he would have wanted. Innocent bystander there for the Danish driver. And from the highs of Saturday qualifying for Valtteri Bottas to the lows of punting off a competitor on Sunday.
And there is debris on the circuit where that has happened. The front right of Valtteri Bottas, the front wing's completely off. Bottas has made it back to the pits now. There is some debris around. Hamilton hasn't pitted, and if this goes to a safety car, this will help Lewis Hamilton more than anyone else. Then he could be in a net third. But so far we're still under green flag conditions.
There was a momentary yellow flag for the slow-moving Bottas, but right now, all green flags out there.
It's the debris that's around. Remember what happened in Qatar? There was a loose wing mirror that got smashed into by Bottas, and then we had the safety car. Bottas is going to retire from this race. The Sauber is switched off, and that's a sorry end to potentially his Formula One career as well today.
Valtteri Bottas, not a lot of movement going on with his car in his pit box outside of the Sauber garage. The front nose damaged, the front right tyre punctured. Bottas bows out of Formula One with Sauber, with another retirement to his name. Couldn't get points on the board this season. He will be pointless come the end of 58 laps.
Indeed, and Magnussen as well then in the wars, meaning only Nico Hülkenberg is in contention to score points for Haas, but he's still there fighting for the team with Gasly just ahead of him, and if anything happens to Gasly, that could still shuffle around. Interesting fight coming up on track. Piastri's got himself back to 9th. He will have to stop again because he pitted so early. And the car he's got behind him, Harry? Max Verstappen on a charge.
I wouldn't want Max Verstappen behind me on a charge, certainly on a normal day, and very much not on a day where he's already punted me off in turn 1. But Piastri has the track advantage for the time being. He is yet to serve, though, his 10-second penalty that he received for going into the back of Franco Colapinto when we restarted under virtual safety car. He's about to serve it now as the Papaya McLaren peels into the pits and hits the brakes, hits the pit limiter, and he's into the fast lane, heading towards Jenny Gow.
Yes, he pulls into his pit box. The mechanics just waiting. They have to serve this penalty, but now they get
Yeah, in the end, almost 13.5 seconds that stop for Piastri, but at least the penalty is cleared and he can focus on trying to carve his way up through the field now. Piastri, could he go to the very end? And now putting on the hard tyre to go there on lap 33 of 58 as he now peels into the right hand of turn 3 where the pit lane feeds you out. The sky slowly a bloody orange that will turn to dark black as the floodlights are all on full beam, illuminating this just over 5.2 kilometre track that hosts the final race of the Formula One season in 2024. And there are scores still very much to be settled. Lando Norris right now is doing the job he needs to do to not only win this race but to secure the Constructors' Championship for McLaren. However, Carlos Sainz is pushing in second for Ferrari, and Charles Leclerc, having started this race one but last, has had a mighty opening stint, finds himself up in fourth on the road behind Lewis Hamilton, who has yet to pit. Leclerc eyeing up a podium and more crucial points to keep this fight for the Constructors going right down to the checkered flag. And Jolien, Charles Leclerc, not only did he make use of the crashes at the start for others, but he had a blinder of a start in himself.
You don't gain 11 places in half a lap by just pure luck. It was skill at every turn from Leclerc, with a helping sprinkle of Verstappen taking out Piastri and Perez getting sideways as well. But it was a beautiful start that launched him into what is now fourth place, which will become third place when Hamilton eventually pits. But it's going to count for nothing apart from probably driver of the day today at the moment for Leclerc, because Norris is still leading, and Norris has just done his best lap of the race. He's got 2.5 seconds back to Carlos Sainz, and the race win is going to decide the Constructors' Championship at the moment, which is a great state of play in Formula One. After 24 rounds, whoever comes out on top in this race, Norris or Sainz, will be giving their team the Constructors' Championship.
I think Charles Leclerc took 4 or 5 cars around the outside going into the left-hander of turn 6 on the opening lap.
That was the one. Humdinger of a move. Humdinger. Round the outside. It opened up for him. And that was 5 places. And then Perez got hit. Perez was going to be done anyway. There was about 4 cars in between them and Leclerc was screaming around the outside.
It'd be good to know if that was his best opening lap ever. Well, he's just gained one more position now. He's up into the podium places because Lewis Hamilton has come into the pits and is now heading out there. Decent stop, 2.5 seconds. Now on the medium tyre to the end, perhaps.
You are not going to get a better opening lap than 19th to 8th in 7 corners. It's just not going to happen.
Looking forward to your analysis next week with every single one of those overtakes in detail.
Yeah, but 6 of them happened at once.
Well, exactly. So actually it does the job for you, really, doesn't it? Hamilton fed out just in front of his old sparring partner, Fernando Alonso, in the Aston Martin, who will get the aid of DRS, and he's bringing Max Verstappen along for the ride as well, who's down in 9th. And actually Alonso tries to put a move on Hamilton, darts down the inside. Hamilton jinks out to the left, sees Alonso off, and it's the Mercedes out of turn 7, currently in 7th, leading Alonso, and then comes Max Verstappen. That is 3 Titans, all using the same piece of circuit.
Yeah, wow, we've got 13 championships spread out by about 1.5 seconds right now. Hamilton, Alonso and Max Verstappen. But it's Lewis Hamilton who's at the head of that pack. 7th place on a fresh set of medium tyres, and he now can scamper up the road and try and catch Hülkenberg and Gasly, still fighting it out in their private battle, 5th and 6th now, which is still a very good day for Alpine and Haas, although it'll be a better day for one than the other, depending on which way that falls in the championship. At the moment, it's heading towards Alpine. Hamilton fancies a podium. Last race for Mercedes. Bono on the radio saying, hey, you can still do this. 16th on the grid. Very unlucky yesterday, Lewis Hamilton. Ran over a bollard that was knocked into his path by Kevin Magnussen. Out in Q1. Despair. A few races in a row not going his way. Looking forward to Christmas. But suddenly there's something on the line here for Hamilton. It seems a long way back. He's going to need Russell and Leclerc to fall into tyre troubles, I think, to get there. He's got about 20 seconds to make up to Charles Leclerc. But he's now got to have a hammer time for one more time in a Mercedes.
He certainly has. They're all chasing Nico Hülkenberg. Meanwhile, though, as Hamilton escapes up the road from Fernando Alonso then gets passed by Max Verstappen, who speeds his way through. Max Verstappen, who punted Oscar Piastri off at turn 1, got a 10-second penalty for it, has now served that in a pit stop and is trying to carve his way back up through the field. Now finds himself in 8th place. It's Lando Norris who leads on lap 37 of 58 of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. It's Carlos Sainz in 2nd, Charles Leclerc 3rd, Russell, Gasly having a great race for Alpine. Finished 5th in Qatar last weekend, currently occupies that same spot, crucially ahead of their rivals for 6th in the constructors, Nico Hülkenberg in the Haas. Then it's Hamilton, Verstappen, Alonso, and Alex Albon has worked his way up into the top 10. Joe is 11th ahead of Tsunoda, Doohan, Stroll. Piastri is 15th now, having served his 10-second penalty. Kevin Magnussen is down in 16th, having had to make an extra pit stop for Valtteri Bottas, slinging into the side of him. And Liam Lawson is 17th and last. And we've lost Bottas, we've lost Colapinto, and we've lost Sergio Perez. So, Jenny, we're just down to 17 cars in this race. Lap 37 of 58. We'll try and get Jenny back if we can, but we'll see there. She's got her eyes and ears glued to the pits, so we'll come back in a few moments' time. But out on track then, Bono thinks Lewis Hamilton could get a possible P3. He's on the quicker tyre, he's on the mediums, he's got to pass Hülkenberg, who's quick, he's got to pass Gasly, who is also quick, and then there's this battle playing out between Russell and Leclerc. He needs some kind of big intervention here, surely, for that to happen.
I don't see it at the moment for Hamilton to get to P3. He's just done a personal best lap of the race on his new set of medium tyres, stretching away now from Verstappen, who passed Alonso as well. But he's got to find 20 seconds to Leclerc, who's going nicely on a set of hard tyres. Leclerc is going away from George Russell, securing 3rd place at the moment. Hamilton will clear Gasly and Hülkenberg in this Grand Prix, but getting to Russell's going to be a stretch, let alone Leclerc, as things stand.
Lap 38 of 58. This the sound of your race leader making his way down the over 1.1 kilometre straight that leads you into turn 6, up into 8th gear before he slams onto the brakes, down to 2nd gear, into the left-hander of turn 6, and then feeds his way out over the crest at turn 7.
Harry, imagine the pressure on the McLaren pit wall, the tension now. Lando Norris is doing everything he needs to do. He's 3.3 seconds clear of Sainz. He's a little bit quicker every lap, but they're fairly evenly matched, and the race is still on, even if it's a proxy war at the moment. Sainz, you never know if he can come back, or Norris to graze his tyres. And McLaren started this one. Zach Brown was actually looking fairly chilled at the start of the race. They were 1-2 on the grid. There was a Ferrari at the back of the grid. And somehow, with 20 laps to go, all of the pressure is on one car who is not leaps and bounds ahead of the field. If anything happens to Norris, then somehow, out of the clutches of victory will come a momentous defeat for McLaren. As it is, Norris is doing the job, but the tension on the pit wall, they've not won the championship since 1998. It's extraordinary that it's even come to this. Oscar Piastri is in 15th. He's got a lot of work to do just to score a point from here.
I reckon he could, though. I think he's got the pace. He could carve his way through the field. He's eyeing up the Aston Martin ahead of him of Lance Stroll. So these should be fairly easy pickings for him. Then it's Doohan. And then the Piastri should have the pace. We're over, though, halfway distance now, lap 39.
You know, another interesting stat coming into this weekend was that Oscar Piastri has completed every lap of this season, which has barely been done in Formula One history, especially on the longest season ever. He is still running in this race, even though he got hit by Verstappen, served a 10-second penalty for hitting Colapinto, but he's got his teammate not far from lapping him now. Might ruin his stat at the end. I don't think he'll mind if McLaren win the championship, but it's a quirk in this one.
No, and it was of no fault of Oscar Piastri's that he found himself facing the wrong way round going into turn 1 of lap 1. But it is tight there, and Verstappen with a late lunge down the inside sent himself spinning round as well, and received a 10-second time penalty because of it. Norris, though, still comfortable out in front for the time being, 3.5 seconds. Then there's a big gap between the two Ferraris, just under 20 seconds splitting those two, but crucially it's two Ferraris on the podium, but Norris is ahead of them in the McLaren, and right now that's all he needs to do to clinch their first Constructors title in 26 years.
I'm ready for another on-track battle now. Lewis Hamilton, 7th, homing in on Nico Hülkenberg. Fresher medium tyres for Hamilton. Hülkenberg radioed a while ago that it was going to be a 2-stop for him. Could be a game of bluff and double bluff between Haas and Alpine. Here's Norris.
Do you think he would pass Sainz on new tyres if he stayed out? I think so, yes.
That feels risky, Jolyon Palmer.
I think they're talking about if there's a safety car. I think that must be, do you pit of the safety car or not? Surely they're not. I think thinking about pitting, don't pit and let Sainz in the lead from now. Think back to Monza, if you're McLaren, where they blew a chance to win the race. They pitted, Charles Leclerc didn't, and he hung on for a brilliant Grand Prix victory for Ferrari on home soil. All McLaren have to do is mirror Sainz. The only time that falls into jeopardy is if there's a safety car. So I think that must be the communication there between Norris and Will Joseph on the radio.
It's lap 40 of 58, and McLaren will be hoping for the most boring final laps to a 2024 season that they could get to ensure Norris off the win and ensure them the title. Their teammate Piastri is carving his way through the field. He's just picked off Stroll and Doohan, and another place gained for Lewis Hamilton, who continues to file his way up through the field. He's just made a lovely move down the inside of the back straight of Nico Hülkenberg. Hamilton up into 6th.
Yeah, short but sweet on-track battle there for Lewis Hamilton. First time of asking down the inside of Hülkenberg, who put up no fight. He knows that his battle is just with Gasly, and that is the next car ahead for Hamilton as well, as he sweeps through turn 9, marches through 10, 11 flat-out right-handers, hits the brake for turn 12 into the hotel section, and there is a pink Alpine looming larger ahead of him.
Impressive stuff from that pink Alpine. Pierre Gasly, you have to say, so far. Managed to find himself up into the podium positions. Qualified in 6th on the road. Got promoted one up into 5th. What an end to the season for the Frenchman.
So he's my driver of the season outside of the top 4 teams. He's the best of the rest this year, I think, Gasly. I think he's had a brilliant season. Seen off Esteban Ocon. Ocon not in the car today, benched by Alpine. This is the sound of his replacement, Jack Doohan, trying to have a move of the season contender on debut around the outside of Lance Stroll at turn 9. Not going to happen on that occasion. Doohan running 14th. I think he's led that team back from a horrendous position, losing technical director and chief aerodynamicist on the first race of the season. They were last. They filled the back row of the grid. Alpine were a laughingstock in the paddock at the start of the season, and they could produce a huge turnaround here, and it is no small part down to Gasly.
He qualified 20th and last in Bahrain, and he qualified 6th on the road at the final race in Abu Dhabi, promoted up inside the top 5. His teammate Jack Doohan for this weekend, and who will be his full-time teammate next season, was getting his elbows out, battling the Aston Martin of Lance Stroll, trying to find a way through on the Canadian racer, really hounding that steering wheel there. But Gasly now, for amazing a race as he is running, is coming under pressure because Lewis Hamilton looms in his mirrors.
He doesn't need to do anything crazy against Hamilton. Hamilton's much quicker now in this Mercedes. He pitted later, he's on the faster tyres, and as they exit turn 16, he will be staring at the back of Gasly's 5th place very shortly. Just half a second between them as he hits the brakes for the first corner. Now it's flat out on the run through turns 2 and 3, left-hander over the crest, building the speed, bouncing away through the flat-out right-hander of turn 3. The floor just bottoming as sparks fly from underneath the Mercedes, and now this is going to be an opportunity for Lewis Hamilton. The scene of 2021 when Verstappen made the move, he comes through there, and now he'll get a chance at 5th place.
And we'll get the aid of DRS, closes up to the back of the Alpine, who doesn't move to defend, and without a shadow of a doubt, Lewis Hamilton slams onto the brakes and seals 5th position, takes it away from Pierre Gasly. The pink Alpine demoted down to 6th, but that still is enough for Alpine right now to hold on to 6th place in the Constructors' title.
Hamilton does need more than a second a lap now to get to Leclerc. He needs pretty much a second a lap to get to his teammate. So that is most likely where he's going to end up in this Grand Prix, but you never know with Lewis Hamilton. He's capable of producing some race pace out of nowhere, and he's going to be getting his head down and trying to chase a 14-second gap to Russell.
How big the gap ahead of him? That's 14 seconds. 14 seconds.
You can do that.
Team meeting at Mercedes. Toto Wolff jumping in on the radio trying to G up Lewis Hamilton. I think the confusion there for Lewis is that he's been told he can finish third in this race. There are 15 laps left, so he's not thinking he's got to make up that much time to get back to third position. But as it is a very tall order for him. On the last lap as he cleared Gasly, he was 8/10 quicker than Leclerc and Russell, so he needs to do a little bit more.
He certainly does. Tension building, though, on the pit wall between McLaren and Ferrari in their fight for the constructors. Ferrari trying to go for the title, their first since 2008. McLaren going for their first since 1998, but it is going McLaren's way right now. It's Lando Norris who leads this race ahead of the two Ferraris, Sainz and Leclerc. Russell and Hamilton 4th and 5th, with Gasly in 6th. Then comes Max Verstappen, who has just dived down the inside of the Haas of Nico Hülkenberg to get 7th place from the German. That puts Haas down into 8th spot in this race. Alex Albon has run a nice quiet race so far, up into 9th, on for a couple of points right now, ahead of Yuki Tsunoda in the RB, who holds the final points paying position.
Personal best lap on the last lap for Carlos Sainz, dipping into the 1 minute 27.8. Norris on a 28.0, but the gap before that was just creeping out towards 5 seconds. I think Norris has this one under control for the moment. It's just, will the car hang on? Will the driver have a lapse of concentration at some point? There are walls lining the circuit in the final sector. There are back markers now that he's coming across.
Like this, we lose the constructors or not? Like this, yes, but it's not finished. Keep pushing.
It is not finished, and you've got to keep pushing to the checkered flag. It will be a double podium if it ended like this for Ferrari, but it would not be the constructors' win.
But it's almost a happy scenario, this one, because Ferrari could not have given more in this. They are 2nd and 3rd. They started 3rd and 19th. They have given the best account of themselves here, so they can hold their head high on a day that they woke up thinking, we've lost this already. They are in the fight with 14 laps to go. Sainz is still there. He can still look up and see Lando Norris as they come down the long straights around this Yas Marina circuit. It is still there, the jeopardy for the McLaren pit wall. And Ferrari now have just got to concentrate on individual jobs. Leclerc is doing enough in 3rd place to hang on ahead of Russell. Can Sainz possibly do anything to put the pressure on Norris up front?
That's the voice of the former Renault Formula 1 driver Jolyon Palmer, alongside myself, Harry Benjamin. You're listening to live coverage of the final race of the Formula 1 season, the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. We're lap 45 of 58. McLaren's Lando Norris leads the race ahead of the two Ferraris, Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc. And if it ended like this, the Constructors' World Championship, which is on the line, would go to McLaren. But Jenny Gow, who is our eyes and ears on the ground, nothing is over until the checkered flag flies.
No, and it was really interesting sitting down with Andrea Stella today, the man who's kind of masterminded this turnaround at McLaren, the team principal, alongside Zach Brown. And he said, we are going to approach this living in the present. You can't think what's going to happen next. You just deal with each moment as it comes, and that way we can deal with whatever lies ahead of us. But he's so inspiring, and he's so calm as well going into this race. He wears a little emblem of Gilles Villeneuve on his heart, and he got quite emotional talking about that as well. He's been in this paddock a long time.
Absolutely. I mean, the restructuring that McLaren have brought in.
And then Leclerc, 24 laps, is struggling with the graining, so the next few laps could be crucial.
More words to Lando Norris there. The next few laps absolutely crucial. McLaren have undergone pretty much a transformation over the last decade, and we are now seeing the fruits of that labour play out. But a little further back from that battle, Max Verstappen continues to carve his way up through the field, has been applying pressure on the Alpine of Pierre Gasly as they get into the left-hander of turn 9. It's Verstappen who comes out ahead of the Alpine, who gets demoted another spot down to 7th.
Tumultuous race for Max Verstappen. Looked like he was going to be fighting for 2nd place at the first corner, had a touch with Piastri, dropped out of the top 10, got back up the order, had a 10-second penalty that dropped him back down again, and now he's on the charge, up to 6th, 7 seconds behind Hamilton. And Hamilton on the last lap was a 1.5 seconds quicker than Leclerc, who is struggling. On this lap, Leclerc's up this pace, so maybe it was a mistake on the last tour of the circuit for the man in third place, but it is not over.
Oh, and Piastri almost losing the McLaren under braking, coming through the right-hand kink of 11 as they approach turn 12. He was right up behind the rear wing of the RB of Yuki Tsunoda and had to get all sideways, held on to the McLaren, but that could have been into the wall for Oscar Piastri.
I don't know who was more sideways, Piastri or you in the commentary box looking at the back of that one. What a tank slapper for him. On the tail of the RB, coming through the flat-out right-hander, but when you're tucked in the dirty air of another car, that is some superb car control to not end that in the barriers.
I was just thinking in my head, McLaren just don't need anything like a safety car or a car stranded, any kind of crash.
And the irony of Piastri being the cause.
Okay, let's get back into the rhythm. I don't know what you call the rhythm, but this is the rhythm.
Well, whatever rhythm Leclerc is dancing to, Ferrari aren't quite on the same page at that one. I think that message needs to be given to Piastri as well, because he needs to get back into the rhythm. There was a really tight fight going on. It was because Alonso was shaping up Yuki Tsunoda for 10th place. Alonso got through, and then as they arced their way into the double right-handers of 11 and 12, Tsunoda was the man under pressure in the RB from Piastri, who was still hounding him despite that little moment as they carved their way through the left-handers of turn 9.
Yeah, and there could be a point at play here for Piastri after his drama in this race. Still, though, stuck behind Tsunoda, losing time, and he needs to come back to Fernando Alonso in 10th position, who is 10 seconds up the road with 10 laps to go. So it's unlikely for Piastri.
Stay calm, Oscar. Pace is there. No risk of an accident. P9 is still on here.
I think they were like you in the commentary box.
I need to stay calm here.
We all need to stay calm. On board with Oscar Piastri, still looking at the back of Yuki Tsunoda. In fact, it's about 3 seconds to Alonso up the road, so that is the target for Piastri. It's 10 seconds to Albon in 9th position, which McLaren reckon that he can get. That'll be worth a couple of points to them. Every point counts, but so far Norris is doing the job alone for McLaren. 6 seconds out front now, just easing away from Carlos Sainz.
The closest battle out on track is between Tsunoda and Piastri right now as they make their way down the back straight. Tsunoda moves to the middle of the track, but Piastri will have the inside line, under braking into the left-hander of turn 6. Tsunoda doesn't fight that one. Will he try and cut back and get better traction out over the bump at turn 7? We'll get the aid of DRS for the RB driver, who moves out to the right-hand side of the Papaya McLaren as they approach the left-hander of turn 9, and Tsunoda bites back and gets ahead of the Australian in the McLaren. Tsunoda 11th, Piastri 12th.
And this is just frustrating Piastri, who really doesn't need to be fighting with Yuki Tsunoda. Back towards turn 12, where he had the whopper of a slapper a few moments ago. This time away, he's just not able to stay glued through that corner now. As the speed builds, you lose the downforce, and Piastri has to wait another lap in 12th place.
Yeah, this is the closest battle out on track at the moment. As you mentioned a few moments ago, Jolien, the gap out in front has extended slightly. 6 seconds now between Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz, with 10 laps to go.
And Norris is really pressing on as well on the hard tyres. He's actually squeezing on the throttle, getting a little bit of wheel spin out of the final corner. He's trying to build that buffer, trying to build an advantage and a bit of safety margin for McLaren over Ferrari. It's still Carlos Sainz in second place. They are 1-2, and they're a long way clear of Charles Leclerc in third place. It's almost a complete pit stop between the two Ferrari drivers in second and third, and it's a lot less than that between the two McLaren drivers. Only a few seconds before Piastri gets lapped by his teammate.
And this is the sound once again of Piastri down through the gears into the left-hander of 6, then out over the bump, takes a lot of curb on the exit of the right-hander through the flat-out left-hand kink of turn 8, gets DRS, gets to over 320 kilometers an hour, eyeing up the back of the RB of Yuki Tsunoda, the Japanese driver who is still in contention perhaps for a Red Bull seat, side by side on the exit of turn 9, and Piastri finally muscles his way through on the RB as they they get into the right-hander of 12, he held on round the outside, and it came to him as the team back in Woking watching live pump the air and celebrate with that one. It's not points yet, but finally Piastri has been unleashed and is now in 11th.
Yeah, we see some beautiful passes today, and that goes right into the top drawer of them. Didn't do it on the brakes, had to commit round the outside of Yuki Tsunoda, who put up a really decent fight there, but finally Piastri is through. He was given just enough space on the outside to complete the pass, and he can look up and see a green Aston Martin of Fernando Alonso and 1 point for the championship.
Less than 10 laps remaining of this, the final Grand Prix of the 2024 Formula One season. It's Lando Norris who leads right now. The Constructors' title is going the way of McLaren, but he's just said the dirty air he's experiencing is terrible. He is struggling. Norris is in traffic now behind Tsunoda, and then his teammate Oscar Piastri. Sainz is chasing Norris. He's in second ahead of Leclerc. Then it's the two Mercedes. Russell ahead of Hamilton. Verstappen is sixth. Gasly, Hülkenberg, Albon and Alonso the top 10. Piastri trying to get something from this race. Down in 11th ahead of Tsunoda. Stroll, doing on debut, is 14th ahead of Joe. Magnussen is 16th ahead of Liam Lawson, 17th and last on the circuit. We've lost Valtteri Bottas, Franco Colapinto and Sergio Perez.
So Norris lost half a second on the last lap to Carlos Sainz, but of course Sainz will have the same traffic as Norris has got at the moment. He's just lapped Stroll, that is 13th. Next up is going to be Tsunoda, and then his teammate Piastri in 11th. And he may get towards Alonso, so he may have another 2 or 3 cars to lap, but of course Sainz has got to do that work as well. 5.3 seconds the gap between the top two, and still things comfortable enough for Lando Norris out front.
They certainly are. And now that Piastri has got ahead of Tsunoda, just trying to see where the closest gaps are. It's down in 14th and 15th. Joe Guan Yu is eyeing up the back of the Alpine of Jack Doohan, but that'll be over pride for Joe Guan Yu, if anything, who will bid farewell to Formula One at the end of this race. His last for Sauber. No confirmed seat for him next year. Might well have to settle as a reserve driver in Formula One, or indeed pastures new for the Chinese racer.
Hamilton's not doing enough in his comeback finale with Mercedes at the moment if he wants to get a podium. He's 6 seconds behind his teammate. He is catching George Russell, and he could yet get to the back of George before the end of the race. 9 tenths quicker on the last lap. 7 laps to go, so it's going to be nip and tuck for 4th, but he's not going to get to 3rd.
That's the sound of Joe Guan Yu just backing off, not trying to dive down the inside of Jack Doohan. Maybe a bit unsure about what the rookie will offer in that Alpine ahead of him, but lining him up down the next dose of DRS up into 7th gear, soon to become 8th as he hits the rev limiter with the DRS, closes right up to the back of the pink Alpine, and the fluoro green Sauber will try and slide round the outside, but Doohan's quite late on the brakes there and holds firm. Doohan getting a nice bit of experience in racecraft.
Yeah, solid from Doohan. Joe just literally backing off the throttle and waiting his turn to come through the chicane at the separates the two straights at 6 and 7. If you pass there, then you can be repassed on the next straight. It's a double DRS, and we saw that with Tsunoda and Piastri. So he didn't fancy the move to come past Doohan, and then he thought he'd get an easier chance into turn 9. Didn't have it there either.
Now, we just saw Ferrari head out into the pit lane, getting ready for one of their drivers, and then coming in straight away. Now, Carlos Sainz has a 22-second gap to Charles Leclerc. They wouldn't risk anything, surely, there. And actually, it's coming down. It's not enough. A pit stop is 22 seconds in total.
So they can get fastest lap point for Sainz at the moment. It's not going to count for anything for Ferrari. They have to win the race to win the championship. And if they pit now and go for fastest lap for Sainz, then Norris can just cover that off as well at the next lap. So maybe they chance their arm and hope that McLaren fluff their lines with a pit stop if they choose to cover up Sainz, but they don't need to. Norris can just stay out, give Sainz the 1 extra point, second place and an extra point, 19. Norris wins the race. It's still going to be enough for McLaren.
And is there a little bit of pride for Carlos Sainz to finish his tenure at Ferrari as the lead driver on the road as well?
He'll still be there. He can take a pit stop and come out ahead of Leclerc, which is a good enough drive anyway for Sainz.
for checking. I think I went
Copy, all okay for now. Everything's stable.
Well, that could change the game, though. Possible puncture for Carlos Sainz. He feels like he might have had one, saying he drove us over some debris. He's staying out on the circuit right now. The tyres look okay from our perspective.
Well, his lap times look okay, which is the crucial thing, but he's now 7 seconds away from Norris, and this one is getting away from Ferrari now. It was never going to be in their hands, but they brought it tantalisingly close, and that's the frustration for Fred Vasseur and the whole of the Ferrari team, that they are in the best position they possibly could have got to. Sainz is continuing. There was obviously a delayed radio message, and that was the reason they dummied the pit stop, just in case Sainz suddenly bailed out. Remember, it was Sainz that had one of those 2 punctures in Qatar last week as well. But right now, it's not enough for Ferrari. Norris, the only McLaren driver scoring points. Alonso's got ahead of Albon for 9th and 10th, and Piastri now is in behind the Williams as well and may take another point. It doesn't matter. If Norris wins the race, McLaren win the title.
Sainz coming out to a bit of traffic as well at the moment. Stroll gets nicely out of the way, and it rather ruins what was a decent battle between Tsunoda and Stroll. Tsunoda will be the next car to get out of the way of the Ferrari, hoping not to lose too much time, but as he's doing so, he's already now over 7 seconds back from Lando Norris, who himself will be approaching some traffic, the first of which will actually be his teammate Oscar Piastri. They're together on the start-finish straight. Piastri, though, is trying to eye up a move to get himself into the points, because he's right behind the Williams of Alex Albon.
He's going to have a good chance to do it on this lap. Norris still pushing flat out, building the lead out front to 7.5 seconds. Piastri just trying to shape up for a move on the Williams ahead. This is for 10th place and a solitary point for Oscar Piastri. And this is the opportunity. Should be a slam dunk for him.
Here comes Oscar Piastri, then peels out to the right-hand side with the aid of DRS, and before they even get into the braking zone of the back straight, it's Piastri clear of Albon, and Piastri back up into the points. Just the solitary one for the moment. He's a few seconds back from Fernando Alonso's 9th place. There's still a couple of laps left in this race, but it might be a bit of a tall order for Oscar Piastri, who will also have to get out of the way of his teammate shortly as well. Albon, now displaced down to 11th, will be given the blue flags to get out of the way, because the race leader is coming through. Lando Norris, 7.5 seconds clear of Carlos Sainz. Charles Leclerc in 3rd. The 2 Mercedes, 4th and 5th. Hamilton behind Russell. Then comes Verstappen. Gasly is 7th, holding on to 6th place in the constructors right now. Are Alpine ahead of their rivals Haas, and Hülkenberg is the only Haas scoring points at the moment in 8th, ahead of Alonso. Then it's Piastri, the top 10. Albon, Tsunoda, Stroll, Joe Dewitt is 15th, ahead of Magnussen and Liam Lawson 17th, and last, no Bottas, no Colapinto, no Perez, who have all retired from this one.
We may yet get a farewell battle from Mercedes for Lewis Hamilton, and is going to be poetically with his teammate, and it may be on the final lap as well. He's within 3 seconds of George Russell ahead. Hamilton 5th, Russell 4th, and Hamilton is 9/10ths of a second quicker per lap. They're not going to catch Charles Leclerc. Leclerc is still 6 seconds up the road, so unless there's drama yet to unfold out front, this is not going to be the fairy tale podium ending for Hamilton with Mercedes. But he's got to have one final battle with George Russell.
How far is Carlos from Lando? Carlos is 7.5 seconds from Lando.
Charles Leclerc trying to get an eye on what's going on with that constructors fight, and I think that response there, with Carlos Sainz being over 7 seconds behind Norris, Leclerc knows there's not anything more they can do.
It's getting away from them, and every lap that there's no drama, it's McLaren closing in on the Constructors' Championship. Ferrari have done everything they possibly could today. They've executed this one wonderfully. Leclerc's drive is sensational. To come from 19th to 3rd, and comfortably 3rd as well. He's under no pressure, but he's able to offer nothing to that battle out front. He's done his part. The other part was on Carlos Sainz, but Sainz has also had a really good race. He just doesn't have the pace of Norris. This is a circuit that suits McLaren, and Norris has done everything right. Sainz, lap on lap, is just trying to keep up with the race leader, trying to keep the pressure on, and as he does his personal best lap of the race again on the last tour, it's just 1/10 slower than Norris, which just kind of epitomises that battle out front. Norris has had Sainz at arm's length the whole way through, and now he's just 3 laps from bringing home another win and the championship for McLaren.
what a story it will be as well. Just needs to hold on for a few more laps, which will end a tough season, a long season, the longest in Formula One history. We're on lap 56 of 58. Those closest battles on the track right now are outside of the points. Yuki Tsunoda is holding on to 11th, half a second ahead of the Aston Martin of Lance Stroll. They're nip and tuck, but outside of that, it's a few second gap, and that closest one between the two Mercedes teammates of George Russell, who is fourth, Lewis Hamilton on the quicker medium tyre. How quickly will it run out of life, though, as we get towards the end of this race? 1.5 seconds the gap. They are together on the main straight that leads you all the way down into the left-hander of turn 6. He's not yet, though, Hamilton, within that DRS zone.
Good race from Hamilton. Very good final drive. He wanted to go out with a fight, and he's had it this weekend. He's had decent pace. Very unlucky yesterday, but he's made amends. And I'm pleased to see a different strategy paying off. Why everyone's starting on the same tyre in the whole way down the field doesn't make sense to me. When you've got drivers out of position, do something different, and sometimes it pays off. And Hamilton is the image of that right now, as he catches his teammate George Russell, who was up fighting for third position at the end of lap 1. Hamilton started 16th.
George stating the obvious, keep it super clean with Lewis.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, but please give us a fight. One final fight for fourth place. Nothing on the line in the constructors' battle for Mercedes. They're going to finish fourth in this season. Russell and Hamilton, very respectful teammates at the end of their time. They've had a nice final weekend together. Sat next to each other at the driver's dinner.
Yeah,
lovely touch.
I heard a rumour there was a chair spare next to Max Verstappen, but Russell took it and then decided to sit next to his teammate. But let's see. One final lap for the two teammates at Mercedes, Russell and Hamilton. We're on that penultimate lap, and Jenny, what a way to end this spectacular season under the lights in Abu Dhabi.
Eyes on the Ferrari and McLaren pit walls, and you can just see the shoulders slightly hunched now at Ferrari, but on the other side the cameras are just trained on the guys at McLaren. You can see the taps, the foot tapping. They're anxious, they just want this to be over and for them to be the winners.
Well, not long left as we are now on the final lap. Lando Norris has crossed the line to embark on his final 5.2 kilometres, his final 16 corners. He has fairly clear track ahead of him. His teammate is actually the one up the road. I wonder if McLaren might orchestrate something there over the line. We've actually got a yellow flag out in sector 2, so we'll see if that comes into play for anybody. The two Mercedes are closing up nicely coming into the final sector. Hamilton now within that DRS zone in his final farewell to the Silver Arrow, the team that have brought him 6 of his 7 world titles. The stats do not lie for Lewis Hamilton and how much success he has shared with that team. But right now he's running out of corners to find that position, and the yellow flag is out because we've got Liam Lawson off the track and smoking out the back for that RB.
And the car rolling as the New Zealanders trying to get out of it. The green flag is flying, though. He's managed to pull off the road. Heart-in-mouth stuff for McLaren when suddenly you see yellow flag sector 2 and realise both of your drivers are together in sector 2. But Norris is through that. He's into the final sector. Just a couple of corners to go.
Mercedes and Hamilton trying to find a way through as well, but Russell putting up a fight and the Mercedes man not close enough. But for McLaren, what a result tonight for them. Lando Norris is just a couple of corners away from taking the checkered flag and sealing the Constructors' World Championship for McLaren, their first since 1998. The Papaya cars shine bright under the lights tonight. 26 years in the making. McLaren were plumb last less than 2 years ago. The last decade has seen them struggle to find their way back to the top from poor cars, poor management, overhauls, their struggles with Honda as a power unit supplier at the start of the hybrid era. The Woking team are back on top, led by Andrea Stella and Zach Brown. A win tonight at the final race of the season for Lando Norris and McLaren seals them as the Formula One Constructors World Champions in 2024.
It's a round of applause all round in the pit lane. Hugs between Ferrari and McLaren. A respectful fight, an honest fight between 4 drivers, 2 at the front, 2 trying to get back from tough positions today. And in the end, Norris won it.
We did it, mate. We did it. World champions. Well done. Papaya on top. Congrats to everyone. Incredible. Well done, everyone. So proud of you all. You all deserve this. Thank you so much. It's been a special year. Next year's going to be my year too.
Will it be Lando Norris's year next year? But in 2024, it's McLaren's year. They have knocked Red Bull off the top and pipped Ferrari to the post to take the sweetest team prize of them all. McLaren, Jenny, are the 2024 F1 Constructors Champions.
They certainly are. I'm on the pit wall as Zach Brown goes up one side and then down the other to say congratulations to his team. They're all flooding on to the pit wall. I'm just going to have a word with Zach if I can. He says not right now. The emotions are bubbling up for this team. You can hear him cheering. I think that's his sons. They're jumping up and down in the pit lane. It's such a happy scene. And just they're all congratulating each other. They're all crying. This is really emotional.
It certainly is, Jenny, for everyone involved. Andrea Stella, the team principal, elated his 2 drivers, bringing home McLaren's first Constructors title. It's Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. 26 years ago, it was Mika Hakkinen and David Coulthard. They've had to wait a while, and it's been a full overhaul at McLaren over the last decade. At one point, they had 0 sponsors on that car because nobody backed them. Now they've got the most of any, and they're one of the most popular teams.
They've done a great team job. That's the thing. Zach Brown has led the team so well. Andrea Stella's a fantastic team principal, clear thinking. They've got 2 brilliant drivers, and that was the pressure today on Norris. Piastri unlucky, really, tipped into the spin at the first corner, couldn't show what he could do. Here's Carlos Sainz.
Thank you, Ricky. Thank you, Ferrari. It's been a pleasure driving for you guys. Forza Ferrari safety.
I do feel for Sainz. Leaving Ferrari, he's heading to Williams. What a season he's had. What a drive, just to keep the fight going there. He gave it everything, and it's so frustrating when you do 58 laps looking at the race winner. He wasn't ditched by Norris. He gave it a good shot, but it wasn't enough. A good fight from him, and that's going to be his last chance to fight for a win, you'd have thought, for a while yet. Great race from Leclerc to go back to the podium. And finally, what about Lewis Hamilton? Through to 4th place on the final lap. George Russell gave him a clap as he came through. He passed his teammate with 6 corners to go.
Yeah, and it was indeed, though, Norris who took the win ahead of Sainz. And what a way to depart the Ferrari, finishing on the podium as your lead driver ahead of Charles Leclerc. And for Lewis Hamilton, well, people thought he was wrong when he swapped McLaren for the Silver Arrows back in 2013. There is a Hamilton moment happening on the grid at the moment. He's doing donuts in that Silver Arrow. The man from Stevenage, though, powered on. His belief, his sheer determination, and his unrivaled talent as the best of them has seen him take 6 of his 7 championships with Mercedes, 84 of his 105 race wins, 78 of his 104 pole positions. The numbers do not lie for Lewis Hamilton, who has made his mark on track as well as off of it, changing how the team operates with their inclusivity and diversity strategies. And whilst Hamilton's era ends with not the way he would have wanted his final season to go, still a cloud looms over Abu Dhabi in 2021. Nothing will ever take away the immense success, the brilliance of a partnership that has lasted 26 years. Powered by Mercedes, when Ron Dennis first took a chance on Lewis Hamilton, to Toto Wolff overseeing the sheer dominance of the hybrid era. The final chapter begins for Lewis next year in red, but for one last time he'll be in silver for Mercedes. But I think the brightest colour is papaya. The team elated with Lando Norris in Parc Fermé, but those crowds are cheering for Lewis Hamilton, who is out of the car one last time for Mercedes. Jenny.
Oh, the crowd are chanting. I don't know if you can hear it. They're chanting Lewis, Lewis, and it's really heartening. But I've tried my hardest to get Zak Brown. His run past me is Lewis just waves at everybody, and Zak Brown has gone onto the grid, and I'm not allowed there, so I failed. But I gave it a good chance, and I'm quite out of breath now.
Don't worry, Jenny, catch your breath for a minute as Lewis Hamilton kneels down next to his final car with Mercedes. His gloves are off. The patting you're hearing is him patting the side pod of the car. This is an emotional moment for Lewis Hamilton. The realisation that he will no longer be a Mercedes driver.
Yeah, end of an era for Hamilton. A week ago, he could have hit a hole through the side of it. He was hating that car so much, but it's done him well today, driving back, gaining 12 places from where he started, and a decent drive. There's a lot of happy campers. McLaren, superb. Norris, he has shown championship credentials this year. He's not won it, but we're going to get a battle royale next season. Lando is going to be ready for the fight. These are the days where you think, yes, he's there as McLaren's lead driver, and McLaren are there as a team. Verstappen had an off day today, really, from the first corner. He'll be back again. We've got Hamilton in red alongside Leclerc next season. A rookie coming into Mercedes to fill his shoes. We've got a lot to look forward to next year in Formula 1.
Let's just quickly run you through the point scorers there. Norris winning ahead of Sainz. Leclerc, that's your podium. And that's Zak Brown just saying thank you to Lewis Hamilton there. And Hamilton, of course, a former McLaren driver, so happy for his former team. Hamilton fourth ahead of Russell. Verstappen in sixth. Pierre Gasly with seventh place for Alpine allows the Enstone squad to secure sixth place in the Constructors. What a turnaround for them. That will feel like a win. Ahead of Haas, Hülkenberg sees off his Haas tenure with eighth place. Ahead of Fernando Alonso, and Oscar Piastri took the final point for McLaren. Charles Leclerc glugs a bit of water and looks, well, rather dissatisfied with how the end of 2024 has played out for Ferrari. They gave it a good fight and pipped Red Bull at the same time, who slipped down to third in the Constructors. Only one car really scoring points. But the plaudits, the lights, they shine brightest on the Papaya team tonight. The orange and black McLarens, Lando Norris winning the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Oscar Piastri stealing a final point after being spun around in lap one, turn one by Verstappen. Managed to get something out of it, and an undeniable contribution to McLaren's Constructors title. 1998, they can now add 2024 to the trophy cabinet back in Woking.
Then the hard, you pushed a bit more, and then we don't have the rear of the hard.
Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz talking on the grid about the race. Let's see if we can hear a bit more.
And then the hard, you guys are a bit more rear. Always on the hard wheel.
They're talking tyres. Even after the end of the final race of the year, they still want to know about how long the tyres were lasting for. For Carlos Sainz, it is a bittersweet ending for him. And he'll drive his first Williams car tomorrow in a filming day.
It's such peak F1 small talk, isn't it? How are the tyres, guys?
How long did yours last?
Well, you're in the desert. You can't talk weather for too long, can you? How was it? Yeah, dry again in the desert. Well, let's talk tyres then. They degraded.
Almost running out of conversation. Right at the end, 24 races. The curtain falls on Formula One for this year. There's not too much of a break, though, to be honest. We go straight into testing next week for the Pirelli tyre test, young driver testing as well. And then, well, you shut up shop for Christmas. And before you know it, we've got the big team launch at the O2 in London for all 10 teams, unveiling their liveries in front of a packed out audience. And then we're straight into pre-season testing in early March in Bahrain. And we then get to Melbourne for race one. And finally, we can hear from our 1, 2, 3 with Nico Rosberg and Terry Crews. Nico
One
first.
of the most thrilling F1 seasons of all time has just come to an end, Charles. And what a race from you. I mean, lap one, you were already 8th.
Yeah, I knew I had to be very aggressive, so I knew that in lap 1 I had to take all the risks possible in order to gain as many places as possible to then be in a good position for the rest of the race, which this was achieved, but then unfortunately we were just starting too further back to do anything better than what we've done today. I think we've done the maximum. It hurts obviously because when season is so close until the end, and it was a hard hit on Friday when we knew we had the penalty. We still gave it all and we just come short of our goal, which is a shame, but at the end we've tried everything.
I think you're going to rebuild in the winter now and definitely give it another shot for the constructors and maybe even for the driver's title next year.
Yeah, I really hope so. I mean, if we look at our first part of the year, we were nowhere near being in the fight for the constructors. Then the second part of the season was really good and the team has done an incredible job. I think Carlos and I have done a really good job as well together. So yeah, we ended strong and I'm sure that next year we'll hopefully start as strong as what we have ended this year.
Next year your teammate is Lewis Hamilton, greatest of all time. Are you excited about that?
Yeah, of course. Lewis has achieved so much in the sport and it will be a big motivation, but obviously for now I'm more thinking about the past year and the past years I've done with Carlos. We've had an amazing relationship, we've pushed each other. I really hoped that we could finish this 4 years together with a constructors title. We both gave it all, it wasn't enough, so obviously now it's the disappointment is here, and yeah, now I will have 4 or 5 days to reset and start thinking about next year then.
Thank you very much, Charles. Congrats nevertheless also for P3 in the Drivers' Championship.
Thank you very much.
Carlos, are you pleased with the P2 here in the end, or were you hoping for the win today?
Obviously a bit of a bittersweet feeling, no? In the end, P2 I think was the maximum we could do today given the pace of Lando in the McLaren. I gave it everything, especially the first stint. It looked like we could hang on to them. Then as soon as we put the hard tires, they just seemed to be that 1 or 2 tenths quicker per lap like we've seen all weekend, and they just got a bit out of reach. But congratulations first of all to McLaren. They deserve this championship. They've been rock solid in the last 2/3 of the championship, and they've been incredible from our side. I think we can be proud of the effort and the championship we put together. It's been a tough year, but definitely a year where we need to be proud of and hopefully be back here soon.
Your time at Ferrari is coming to an end now. Are the emotions starting to come through? I'm sure it was an incredible time for you.
Yeah, obviously emotional that in lap with my engineer talking to me on the radio, but at the same time very grateful, to be part of this amazing team for 4 years. I think I've had the opportunity to win my first races, do my first pole positions, my first podiums. I've proven to myself and to everyone that I can be fighting for race wins and for podiums if I have the right car, and my target is from next year onwards focus together with Williams to get back to where we belong together.
Thank you very much, Carlos. All the best with your next chapter.
Thank you very much.
Lando, P1 for you today, Constructors Champions with McLaren after 26 years. How does that feel?
Thank you. It feels incredible. Not for myself, but for the whole team. The team have done an amazing job this year to come from where we were at the beginning. I'm so proud of everyone. It's been a lovely journey, and to end the season like this is perfect. So just a congrats and a big thank you to everyone in McLaren, everyone in Papaya, everyone who supported us this year, because it's been a tough one, but for us to win a Constructors after 26 years is pretty special.
Take us into this a little bit. How are you going to celebrate this? Like, is it going to be big?
Yeah, me and Zach already said we're going to get absolutely hammered tonight, so I'm excited. We're going to celebrate. This is a historic moment for the team. They're going to want to celebrate, and I want to celebrate with them, so it's going to be a good night.
Lando, on the in-lap, you said next year is my year. Are you going to be world champion next year?
This is my goal. This is our goal as a team. We want to win the Constructors. We want to win the Drivers next year. So, I made my mistakes this year, but I've learned a lot, and I've learned a lot from Max and my competitors around me. So as much as I'm happy now, I'm excited to get next year going.
Thank you very much, Lando. Congrats to you and the team. We're so excited to see next year unravel. And I'm going to pass over to Terry. Lewis is cancelled, so I'm not passing over to Terry. Bye-bye, everybody. See you next year.
That was the sound of the 2016 Formula One World Champion, Nico Rosberg. We thought we'd hear with Terry Crews talking to Lewis Hamilton. That may well still pop up unexpectedly, doing some donuts on the grid. Right after the close, his final checkered flag as a Mercedes driver.
And that's the end of an era. Got to say, mate, it's been epic working with you.
Lewis, that was the drive of a world champion. That was the drive of a world champion. Amazing.
Thanks, Sergio. That was fun.
Good man. Stellar job today, bud. But yeah, it's been a pleasure all the way. In the tough times.
The pleasure's been mine. Yeah, we dreamed alone, but together we believed. And as a team, we achieved things that only... Thank you for all the courage, the determination, and the passion, and for seeing me and supporting me. What started out as a leap of faith turned into a journey into the history books. So we did everything together, and I'm so grateful to everyone for here back at the factory. From the bottom of my heart, all the best.
Thank you, Lewis. Yeah, it's been an amazing journey, and I've been so grateful to be part of this chapter of your life, and best luck for the next one.
Yeah, I love you guys. I really do.
We love you too, and you're always going to be part of that family. And if we can't win, you should win.
Touching words from the team principal of Mercedes, Toto Wolff, and Pete Bonington, Lewis Hamilton's longtime race engineer. A formidable partnership comes to the end. The final checkered flag as a Mercedes driver for Lewis Hamilton has fallen. And the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix is done. 24 rounds complete. Formula One in 2024 is over. Max Verstappen is your four-time world champion. McLaren are the Constructors' World Champions, and this was how the final race ended. Norris sealing the Constructors with the win in the Grand Prix, ahead of the two Ferraris, Carlos Sainz and Charles Leclerc. Hamilton in fourth ahead of Russell. Then comes Verstappen, Gasly, Hülkenberg, Alonso, Oscar Piastri stole the final point in 10th. Then Alex Albon was 11th ahead of Yuki Tsunoda, Zhou Guanyu 13th, Lance Stroll 14th, Jack Doohan on debut finished 15th ahead of Kevin Magnussen, and Liam Lawson classified 17th but was up in smokes on the final lap in his RB, with no retirement from Valtteri Bottas or Franco Colapinto or Sergio Perez. They are gone as well, and that they retired from this race. That is it. Julian Palmer, the season has come to an end. Can you sum it up in 4 words?
Quite simply, that was marvellous. 5 words.
You had your chance, Palmer, and you blew it.
A brilliant season.
Well, okay, we'll accept it. Thank you, Jolyon Palmer. Thank you, Jenny Gow, as well. Thank you for your company this season. We hope to see you in 2025, and you can listen to all of our analysis of the final Grand Prix in the Checkered Flag podcast, coming to BBC Sounds and wherever you get your podcasts in a couple of hours' time. And we'll be reviewing the year as well next week too, looking back at all of it. This has been an IMG production for BBC Radio 5 Live.